Good afternoon, everyone. If you wouldn't mind finding this place to stand, I know we do have folks outside. We do have speakers set up outside as well as a television. If there is someone needing a chair or something, assistance outside, just look for one of the PIOs. They'll be walking around out there. So we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Emily Smith, Public Information Officer with CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1. We appreciate all of you coming out today for this community meeting here in Old Station, and we do appreciate Chief Parrish for allowing us to use this facility today, so thank you to you. This afternoon, you'll be hearing from various experts in their field. We have fire behavior analyst, unified incident commander, and so on here today to give you the presentation of what's going on with the Dixie incident. We do ask if you have questions. We'd like to get through all the presenters first, and at the end, if you have questions, just raise your hand. We'll have someone walking around with a microphone, and you'll be able to ask that question and get you an answer. So a quick update on the Dixie incident for acreage. The Dixie incident is currently 756,768 acres at 48% containment, and there are 4,692 personnel assigned here. And one more item I'd like to mention is we are recording this community meeting that we intend to post this evening around 8 p.m. on CAL FIRE Lassa Modoc's page, as well as CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1 YouTube page. And we can get you lined up with those if you're curious afterwards on how to access this recording later today. With that, I'd like to bring up our first presenter this afternoon, our fire behavior analyst, who is Don Watt.
Good afternoon, Don Watt, Fire Behavior Analyst with Incident Management Team 1. So I'll just give you guys a quick update on kind of the weather and how the fire's been going. You probably noticed the last couple of days, it's been a little breezy, also a little smoky for you guys. The nice thing is the wind's been fairly calm, and it's been giving us a chance to actually have some advantage where the fire's not really running hard on us. The smoke has also kind of shaded the fuels out, so it slowed that fire progression down. We are going to start seeing a little bit of change. There is another front coming in with a southwest wind component to it. They are going to be stronger. We'll start seeing those coming in Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Advantage for you guys, it won't be directly blowing the fire towards your community. And also looking at the fuels and the fire behavior, which I'll go into a little bit, is when you get out here, we start seeing a little more of that lava cap, a little more openness. The tree stands are not quite as compact. You do have the advantage of the reading fire scar that's helping out. That hasn't, since it's been long enough, it has some growth, but the big issue is it hasn't had enough time to build up a good undergrowth underneath it. So your shrubs are actually having a hard time to burn. They will burn probably when we get that wind component, but it won't be as significant as some of the other areas that are thick brush and heavy timber. So right now our biggest problem on the fires when we get these winds and this good building fires, we have spotting potential. The last couple days that has definitely been decreased in the range that the fire is spotting out ahead of itself. And we'll probably see that also in the next couple days as we get into more of the brush and not as the heavy timber. It will still be there. It's still one of our issues, and that's something we're going to be working with in the next couple days. But as far as the fire coming down off the rim and out of the park into this community, it's looking a lot better. The wind pattern's not really supporting it coming in here, but I'm not saying there's not a chance. As you guys know, this time of year, we have a south wind now. It could turn into another wind 3 or 4 days from now. So the big thing is we've been working with operations and try to help advising them where the fire's going, and they've been prepping for that for the last several days. So the fire's looking really good right now. We are planning for the front coming in the next several days, and we're trying to get ahead of that for you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chief Watt. Our next presenter this evening, Operations Section Chief Shannon Prather.
Hey, good evening, everybody. Shannon Prather. I'm going to give you a quick rundown on the fire operations on the whole thing here for a sec, but want to clarify one thing. In some of the information we have out there, the warnings state in there, Hat Creek. Well, it's just, we're talking about the Hat Creek creek here, and not actually the community. The only warning that we have in place is for Old Station currently, so just to clarify that. So I'm going to walk around the whole fire, and I'm going to end up here on the northern divisions and talk about what's really affecting Old Station at the end. So starting over here in the Lassen sector, Division Quebec, we had a lot of issues over there the last few days. They've gotten around all this stuff, and and Pole Creek and Butte Lake. We burned out all the way over to the eastern side of West Prospect, tied it into some lava flows, and that's looking really good, holding. Coming around over into the Butte Lake dip, we've held fire in there around Pole Creek. It's mopping up. We're looking at about 30 to 100 feet in on mop up, so that's going well today. Still some possibility of the interior pockets that could cause some issues on us. Stuff's still coming together, but we are looking real well. Into Division Romeo, over by Silver Lake, moving Silver Lake all the way up to Butte Lake. There are still some issues in there. It's up in the Caribou Wilderness, hasn't moved for the last few weeks very much in there, although today it is starting to get active in a few of those timber stringers. So there is some potential that we're going to have some issues in that Silver Lake area, the Caribou Wilderness, in the next 3 days. We're looking at what kind of options we have to secure this line over the next few days, but with the wind predicted right now, it's not looking real favorable for doing any kind of burnout operation. So we're holding that in check currently with Air Resources. It's working really well. They got a lot of mountain lakes up there, and it's keeping that stuff in check. Moving down into Division Tango, it's all looking really well. Westwood Sector, it's coming together pretty nicely down there. A few service calls here and there, and we're feeling real confident that fire is holding in that area. We are helping on the east zone a little bit. Down here in the Antelope group, we've given some help pushing some line around this section in here, helping out the east zone. We're making good progress and continuing to work on contingency lines down in here for them. Moving back around over into Lake Elminor in the west zone, we're looking really good. These little pockets in here of red you see are by Red Hill and Butte Reservoir. These are interior pockets. They're looking real good right now, and that should be black in the next few days, black line containment. So coming back up into Branch 9, and well, let's talk about the Butte Sector also. Butte Sector is looking really good. A lot of rehab going on in there. Have been no control issues in the last week over in the Butte Sector. And Westwood is also looking good. Moving around over here to Branch 9, over by Saddle Creek. It's still some open line in here. We're working on getting those control lines going direct, and a lot of that mop-ups going on in there, and it's looking really well. Still some issues over in Division November, but they're working on that today. Up and onto the Park Highway, it's burned out all the way around the Lassen Park Highway. We've taken it all the way on those lines on that highway, all the way up into the scar of the old Reading fire. So we've hit that southern edge of the Reading fire scar. We've held the fire up in there just north or south of the Nobles Trail, and it's still holding in there. And we're holding that in check with Air Resources right now, and as we get around the top part of it. So I want to talk a little bit about what we've been doing, working over here on the top. So we changed up a few things on West Prospect. So we said we tie it into the lava flow up there by Butte Lake, and we brought this around West Prospect Road and secured this into the West Prospect spur between Badger and West Prospect. We're held it in there. They're mopping that up today, and it's looking really well. So not much fire activity in there. So we feel we've locked that in pretty darn good for now through this wind event to secure this edge in here. We don't feel like it's going to move through that Reading scar very fast. There's some sparse ground, a lot of snags in there. Pretty hazardous conditions to get into on the ground. So we are holding that in check. And one of the lines that we have been planning on going around the north end of Badger Mountain, tying that into Lost Creek, coming back onto the Park Highway 89 to secure that edge. So since it hasn't been moving very much in that Reading fire scar, and we think we've got some time since we parked it on West Prospect now, we've looked at getting a little bit closer. So we always go to that PACE model, right? Primary, alternate, contingency, and then we have emergency lines. But our primary line has been holding. We've got it checked in and tucked in for now, and we're taking it in between West Prospect and Badger right now to open that spur road up to take it on to the south side of West Badger along the park boundary. Park has authorized masticators in the park in there, which is really good for us. So we can get some mechanical treatment done on there and have another option to keep it out of Badger. And that's what we're hoping that we do after this wind event. But, you know, really we got to hold on to that and wait and see what this wind does and hold what we have for now in the next 3 days, get through this wind event, and then see if that's going to be valid. But we really do hope that that line ends up being our primary and we get a little bit closer into the park. So there are a few other options we are looking at. That could be more options in the park, but it's just going to determine on what the weather does the next few days. So that's the end of the report for your ops update.
Thank you, Chief Prather. Our next speaker we'd like to bring up from the Shasta County Sheriff's Department, Lieutenant Caleb Mcgregor.
Hi, Lieutenant Mcgregor, Shasta County Sheriff's Office. So to cover a few things, I don't know if all of you have heard of our Code Red system. That's one of the things we use to notify the public in instances of not only fires, natural disasters, but also if we have an incident that's occurring in your area. So there's two ways you can get on to the Code Red system. One is publiccodered.com. You can go to that website, sign up, enter your information, which would include cell phone numbers, home numbers, your name, address, and that kind of information. The other one would be SHASCOM 911. You can also sign up for Code Red on SHASCOM 911. I know over the past few days there's been a lot of question and concern regarding the evacuation warnings. So just to give you a little overhead of what an evacuation warning means to you as the public, an evacuation warning is a situation where there's a potential threat, and the purpose behind that is to allow the public, you folks, the time to prepare for the next phase of that, which would be an order. How do we disseminate that information? We do it by Code Red. We also use a system called IPAWS, which is Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. So both of those kind of work the same, but we're limited in the amount of information that we can place on the IPAWS. So we utilize both. With the IPAWS, how that works is a geographical boundary is established. That goes out and it covers and contacts every cell phone user within that geographical boundary. Code Red is the same. It's a geographical boundary, but that would be a system that you would sign up for, and we're allowed, we can put a lot more information as to what's actually going on with those two systems. In the event that we arrive at an evacuation order, we use those two systems, but we also will come out and go door to door and notify each and every one of you at your residences personally. We also put out information on social media platforms. The Sheriff's Office is part of, has a Facebook site. So we're consistently putting information out there that you can access and get updates. We're in consistent communication with our partners in this incident. There's a lot that goes into decisions that are made prior to sending that out. For instance, the warning, and why you guys aren't in a warning is because there was a order that we placed up on top of the Hat Creek Rim, which brought you guys along that boundary. So the citizens of Old Station, the next step was to place you guys in a warning. So that's why that warning went out. So not to get the two confused, because I know when you get the call, it raises anxiety for many of you. One, you see smoke, you see fire trucks, you don't know what's going on. So the purpose of the warning is just to allow people time to gather their belongings and prepare for the next phase if we arrive at that. So I'll be available for questions afterwards. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out and ask, and I'll try to get you the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Mcgregor. Our next presenter this afternoon from the Alaskan National Park Service, Jennifer Gibson.
Hi, I'm Jen Gibson. I'm actually from Crater Lake National Park. I'm here helping Lassen out. And first and foremost, I want to tell you all I'm really sorry you're going through this. This is a tough summer. And I worked at Whiskeytown for 20 years, and I lost my house, lost my community. So I'm totally thinking of all of you, like I'm right there with you. So I kind of get a little emotional talking about it. But I want to let you know the National Park Service at Lassen, they came to Whiskeytown, they helped us out. They carried us through that fire. They carried the park staff. A third of the park lost their homes. So I'm here to pay it forward. And that's what we do nowadays, right? Pay it forward these times. And so with that, I want to let you know that the National Park Service at Lassen, they're pulling out all the stops. Masticators, feller bunchers, retardant, whatever it takes to help you out. Your property is our #1 priority. We're working lockstep with CAL FIRE, the Forest Service, and developing strategies to stop the fire. And they're pulling out whatever. We have park staff that are embedded in with CAL FIRE. We have park staff that are embedded with the Forest Service. We're working as one unified team. And I recognize national parks aren't used to using this sort of equipment. I'm going to acknowledge that. But in this day and age, we got to do what we got to do. Fires are getting bigger. They're burning hotter. The fuel moistures this year, somebody told me the 1,000-hour fuel moistures are 5%. 100-hour fuel moistures are 3%. That's just, we're breaking records this year in terms of the drought, the fuel moisture, and the fire behavior. So the park is doing everything they can. But bottom line, bottom of my heart, Park Service is thinking of you guys too. We're really sorry that you're going through this. Be prepared. If you have any questions, I'm here to talk to you. Marlon's here from the park. He's here to talk to you. Any concerns you have, we're here. But I wish you well.
Thank you so much, Jen. Our next presenter from the Hat Creek Ranger District, Robin Wall.
Hello, everyone. We met here not even 2 weeks ago. For me, it feels like it was 2 or 3 months ago. A lot has happened in the last few weeks. But I also want to take this opportunity to thank CAL FIRE and to be able to listen to our community, be able to listen to our concerns, and try and help us host this informational briefing, this community meeting, because I know you have a lot of questions. I know there's a lot of unknowns, and hopefully with this community meeting, we'll be here to help you along to get that information to you. So I just want to briefly just talk about the forest closures. Excuse me while I'm looking at my notes. On August 11th, the Lassen National Forest, we issued the expanded Dixie fire closure order. That included all the area around Old Station. As you noticed, the campgrounds are closed, Subway's Cave is closed. And it included the south of 44, east of 89. It went effective on August 12th, and it will be effective until November 30th. On the 22nd of this month, our region, our Pacific Southwest region, issued an emergency forest closure for 9 of the national forests. And I know that was an issue for some folks because hunting season coming up. But this will be on order for, until the 6th of September. It included, like I said, 9 national forests, but locally, it includes the Lassen, the Modoc, the Shasta Trinity, the Six Rivers, the Klamath, and the Plumas. So basically, all the northern California forest. So the regional, these orders were implemented to protect public health and safety, and it was due to the wildfire potential. So you can understand the need to close these forests to keep the recreationists at bay, for resource protection, and to make sure if there's any type of warning or evacuation that we would be able to get those warnings out, to get that word out to the people and evacuate what's needed. But again, like I said, the campgrounds are closed, Subway Cave is closed, and I'm the Hat Creek District Ranger. So if you see like a big party bus come to Subway Cave, let me know, all right? So we can make sure that they make sure that they know it's closed. But there are exceptions to a forced closure. If there are timber operations, if there are grazing operations, there is ways to mitigate that. There's approvals that can be done, and we can work with that. But law enforcement, patrol staff, et cetera. So just call the office, ask for me, Robin Wall. I'm the district ranger, and if you're a contractor, if you're doing business, we can talk about that. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Our next speaker this afternoon, one of the Incident Unified Commanders from CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1, Nick Truax.
All right, good afternoon, and thanks for joining us here today. I'm Nick Truax. I'm the Incident Commander for CAL FIRE IMT 1. We just assumed the east zone of this incident 2 days ago from our CAL FIRE Team 3, who got it from us about 4 weeks ago. So this is the third activation for CAL FIRE team within the west zone. I just wanted to talk a little bit, or I guess a little bit more about myself. Is not only am I the EIC for this team, I am also the division chief for CAL FIRE, Shasta Trinity Unit, and the Shasta County Fire Department here on the east side. I've been in this position a little over 8 years. Prior to that, I was your battalion chief here out of Bernie. Worked with John Parrish and many of the local volunteers over here for about 6 years prior to that. So I spent well over half my career working in this part of Shasta County. So I know the dirt over here, and I know many of you out in here. What I want to talk about is the organization of this fire. We're talking about a fire that's over 750,000 acres. It's the second largest fire in recorded state history. So some of you folks, I know there's many of you out here that are retired from the fire service over various times. So you see stuff like zones and sectors. Zones are something that we've used for large fires for many years. So basically the zone is, we've split the fire, we can split it in half or thirds or quarters or whatever based on many different things. So this one has 2 zones, and you have an incident management team that manages both zones, the east and the west zone. Currently today, the Forest Service Interagency Team 1 is transitioning out with a team from the Great Basin. The Great Basin teams constructed of mostly members of federal members from Nevada, Idaho, and Utah. So we're bringing in out-of-state folks to help us manage. Fortunately, that team and my team, we were on the Creek Fire last year, so many of my team members know their team members, so we should have a very good transition, communicating back and forth and sharing resources. Fire this size, we have to be able to do that. We like to call it surging. So if a community gets threatened, we're going to throw everything that we can into those communities to protect as many of the structures and the people that we can. There's a lot of folks working here. 4,500 personnel assigned. That sounds like a lot, but a fire this size, it really isn't. I think I heard a stat the other day that every one person assigned to the incident would be responsible for 6 acres. But again, a lot of those personnel are dispatchers. They're working in camp, doing logistics, doing finance. A lot of the folks here that aren't actually out there grubbing in the dirt. So that's a lot of area for a very little amount of resources. Everybody's aware of all the fires around the state right now, so we're having to share resources with them. We bounce between number 1 and number 2 fire in the state, just kind of dependent upon the day, and that's how the the resources get allocated. Everybody gets a little bit. But usually the top priorities will get more of the resources. This fire has been going for over 45 days, and we're well over 2 months into heavy fire season. So there's been many transition with teams and resources. We try and get everybody a couple days off after about 21 days of work. So we're constantly rotating people and crews into to get their 2 days off, and then we get them back or they get shipped out to another fire. So we're trying to share those resources. It's just, none of us are equipped for this kind of fire, unfortunately. Jennifer talked about it, and it takes all of us. It takes federal, it takes state, it takes local government now working together on these incidents. You take a look at this map, and the areas that are shaded in white are state responsibility areas. The areas that are shaded in green are federal or Forest Service responsibility areas, and the pink is the Park Service. But we're all here working together to try and protect the communities, number one, and then get this fire put out. We're having to use some unconventional methods at times to get that done. Shannon talked about some of the things that we've done to kind of tie that thing in off of West Prospect. What wasn't mentioned was about a week ago, while the other CAL FIRE Team 3 was running the incident, my team got here about a week ago yesterday. So many of us came in last weekend. We brought a bunch of masticators, dozers, those kind of things, and we started to do some mastigation around some of your neighborhoods here in town. And then we also put in a couple of contingency lines, just in case it gets over those primary lines. So we have 3 lines of defense between the fire and town. Shannon's working on putting another one in. And then we've also done what fuels treatment we could here around the community. So those are just some of the things that we're trying to do just in case this fire wants to come in. We have a wind event coming in over the next starting I think tomorrow evening for about a 3 or 4 day period. We're hoping that it's going to kind of push it to the east of you here. But Hope hasn't been working on this incident, so we have resources in place, and if it gets to the community, we will surge more fire equipment, not only from the fire, but the local forest, the local unit, Chief Govea here with Shasta County Fire. He'll surge what he can in here to help out as well. Obviously, I know there's probably a lot of questions, so I'd probably like to turn it over to that now. And if there's any more, we can answer that. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief Truax. So at this point, our presentations are done. We'd like to open it up to questions from all of you. For the folks that are outside, if you have a question, if you wouldn't mind walking towards the at bay door, and we'll have a public information office there to assist you. So what we'll do is we'll go around with the microphone. We did receive one question prior to the meeting, and it was in regards to evacuations. Lieutenant Mcgregor covered that on how you would be notified. But we just want to let you know if you need assistance signing up for Code Red, we're here afterwards. We can help you get signed up. As well as outside, there is an evacuation map posted that you're more than welcome to look at as far as where the orders and warnings are right now in Shasta County. So let's go ahead and open up. If you have a question, just please raise your hand, and Bruno will go around.
So first of all, from all of us, really, thank you, every one of you, for everything you're doing. We do appreciate it. And while we appreciate it, you can imagine it doesn't necessarily lower our angst and nervousness as this thing gets closer. So I heard the chief a minute ago said something about they're doing a lot of work around the town. And I'm sure you folks know there's 3 different subdivisions, basically. There's Big Springs, there's Sugarloaf, and then there's Old Station, and a lot of little things in between. And my question is when this thing gets closer and if it starts spotting, I actually have a couple of questions, so I'll just give them to you all at once.
Sounds great.
How many strike teams can we expect to see in each of these subdivisions? I know there's some engines here today. In my humble opinion, I'm not sure it would be enough if all of a sudden the winds came up and this thing started spotting. So I'm curious about how many we could expect if it got really bad. Second question is do you have trigger points in mind as far as issuing an evacuation order? In other words, very nice maps, by the way, thank you. But at what point in time, or what are your imaginary trigger points or real trigger points to say, okay, Old Station, Sugarloaf, and Big Springs, you got to get out? We'll just be curious so we're all watching this, and it'd be nice to know that in advance, and so we can get more nervous about it. And I think the last one was, Oh, a thank you to the Park Service, because I understand today they've now allowing retardant and masticators and a few other things. I think we all wish it would have been done 2 weeks ago, but we'll take what we can get, and we thank you for changing the orders.
Absolutely. I'd like to bring up our Operations Section Chief, Chief Prather, if you don't mind to answer those questions.
Yeah, so as you can imagine, with all the fires going on in the country and in Northern California, resources are at a premium. And with that in mind, we've lowered our resources, the operational resources here quite a bit. Other fires that have been going on in the North State have been needing resources. We've had most of them, so we've had to distribute some of those out. That being said, we don't really have just a surge force sitting around waiting to come. Where those resources would come in is from other portions of the fire. And I'll just reiterate that, our primary focus is life, property, and then resources. And if it comes to that point where fire does impact Old Station, it's going to be all hands on deck. Every division on this whole fire is going to be asked to give up resources in order to come in and protect us community here in Old Station. Okay, you talk about trigger points, what that trigger point is. So if fire gets established on the north side of Badger, of the current primary control lines of Badger, and we cannot bring that back into alignment on that line, then that's going to trigger an evacuation. We'll suggest that to the county sheriffs. We'll make that call to make an evacuation order, but that's kind of where the trigger point is. If it gets established on that north side of Badger or Prospect and we cannot bring that back into alignment, we're feeling really good about Prospect right now, but we're not out of the woods on Badger. That's where we're getting a little bit tighter, getting into the park a little bit. And we got a little buffer there. And then if it does get into that southern line that we're going in right now, we've got some room to work with there. We've got the northern line of Badger, and if we'll do everything we can to control it there. If it really decides to rip out of here and gets established on that north side of Badger, we're not going to want you guys in this community. So.
Shannon, quick follow-up.
Yes.
So right now there are some legions in these different subdivisions. Will they be staying here, especially if the wind starts to come up? Will they be staying here at night so that we don't have to be out patrolling, seeing if there's hot spots popping up? Maybe we will anyway.
Yeah, we have patrols in the evening. We have that plan in place. So we're not going to be, especially if there's issues in the community, it'll be 24-hour coverage. Yep.
Thank you, Chief. Any more questions out there? Okay. All right, we have one right behind you, and then we'll go to you. Yep.
Yeah, I was wondering what happened to CAL FIRE's eradication of the neighborhoods for cleanup. Mitigation, sorry.
Okay. Chief Truax, would you like to answer that? And we may need a little bit more clarification from you.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I can't, what do you mean? I guess?
The mitigation, you guys were going to go out and cite people who had
Okay.
lots that needed to be cleaned up, and none of it's been done.
Okay, so you're talking about for our 4290 program, 4291 program.
Whatever you call it.
Okay. All right.
Hasn't
Well,
been
what
done.
we had been doing here over the last week is we've been out doing fuels work, and I thought maybe that's what you were referring to. So the inspection process, we've got a few county or a few defensible space inspectors that have been out in the county, but we only have 4 of those, unfortunately. Yeah, I know you laugh, but we try and, ever since all the fires started, they're the ones that are helping us get food out to the firefighters and doing, actually most of ours have been doing damage inspections, so they've been going out recording people's structures that have been burnt down and recording that with the county.
Well, if it gets in my neighborhood, you might as well kiss it goodbye, because some of those fields are just hazardous waste materials.
Yeah.
So why aren't you doing anything about it? I mean, you drive by
I'm
it
not
every
the property
day.
owner.
You
I
drive
don't.
by it every day when you pump water, and you have your service trucks there. You have CAL FIRE driving through the neighborhood. Why haven't they said anything?
I can't answer the question. I don't own that property, so I don't.
But I thought you were going to cite these people and find out who owned those properties. You haven't done it.
Okay.
That's a program you have yourself. It's your own program.
Well, within other areas of the county, like I showed you the white lands where we are. I get it. We can't cover the entire state. I apologize for that. I really wish we could. I really do. Chief, you want to come up? You could probably address it better.
Good evening, Brecavea. I'm the unit chief for Shasta Training Unit CAL FIRE, and I'm also the Shasta County Fire Chief. We do, as Chief Truax pointed out, we do have defensible space inspectors. We have 4 of them, and we're accomplishing about 3,500 inspections a year. When we do get hit and inundated with fires, we have to redirect those. Inspections stop. We're using those folks to do damage inspection on neighborhoods where we've lost homes. We're using those folks all over the place. As a matter of fact, our inspectors right now are up on the Monument Fire in Trinity County because we are the Shasta Trinity unit doing inspections. We are actively doing inspections in these neighborhoods, and we are providing LE 100 violation notices for cleanup. And we come back on a 2-week basis, every 2 weeks. You got to understand, though, what the law is, 4291 does not allow for clearance of just vacant property. If you look at the state law, it has to be within 100 feet of a habitable structure. So if it is an issue that's within 100 feet of a habitable structure, we will give those violation notices out, and we will follow up on those. And citations have been going out. We've been working with the Shasta County District Attorney's Office, and last year was really groundbreaking for us that we took probably over 25 violation notices to the District Attorney's Office. And they have been being dealt with. So that's the program that we have right now. That's what we're funded for. But I think there's some confusion as to what the law allows for clearance of property. And there are properties out there that are fire hazards, but the law doesn't allow us to deal with some of those if it isn't in close proximity to a habitable structure. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Chief Gavea and Chief Truax. Any additional questions out there here in front? Chris?
We keep hearing about the fire breaking through or over Highway 89, 44, and those are our ways out. I am assuming that even if there isn't an immediate evacuation notice here, if one of our exits becomes blocked, we will be notified so that we do have a way out. Tell me I'm right.
So, and I'll actually refer, Lieutenant Mcgregor might be able to speak a little bit better on this, but yes, in an evacuation notification, you would have a route of travel, but would you like to add on to that? Yes.
So when information comes out in regards to roadways, both those roadways you mentioned are long roadways. Part of that 89 runs through Lassen Park, so there's closures in certain parts of 44 and 89, and we always project out with CHP and fire to anticipate if it's going to cross. So right now, as it stands, 44 heading down into Shingletown, 89 going into the Bernie proper is wide open. So that always comes into consideration in any planning that we do.
Some of us remember 2009 when we had a thunderstorm that made a big circle several times, and we could see fires here and there, but there was no warning that 89 to Bernie was going to be closed. It was just closed. And anybody who was thinking that they were going to try and get out that way had to rethink themselves a lot. I think it made everybody, or at least me, kind of nervous about knowing what's open or what is due to close so that we can use that route momentarily or not. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Lieutenant Mcgregor. Any additional questions out in the crowd? Right here in front.
So I
I'm a pretty loudmouth guy. So, thank you, though. Okay. So, watching the arc fire map at night, there's a couple of us that have some questions. We noticed on the west side of West Prospect Peak, all of a sudden, one morning, there was a bunch of almost perfect little circles of fire on that west side, whereas the night before there were none. And it didn't look like there was any fire spread on any of the other line. And then today, further out, there's more. So is that actual spotting, or are we doing some controlled mechanisms to try to burn that off before the main fire gets there?
So this question, Chief Prather or our fire behavior analyst that may be more familiar with the IR mapping can give you an explanation.
Yeah, so that spot you guys were seeing, they were trying to get ahead of the fire and do a burning operation. So that way it wouldn't have the momentum coming up West Prospect. Unfortunately, with that snow brush and how new it is, and there wasn't enough understory to do it cleanly, they stopped their operation so they didn't create more of a hazard. And they did go back later with a terror torch to try and see if they could continue. They just lost the window to burn it cleanly, and they were able to stop it and hold it. That way we don't create a bigger problem down the road. Yeah, we are trying to get ahead of it, and that's where it's that balance. We're trying to get ahead before the winds, but not put too much and then have an issue when the winds do come.
Thank you, Chief Watt. Any additional questions? Were there any from outside? Did we see? No? Oh, we got one in the back. Absolutely. Chief Prather?
So currently inside the park, we have a couple of control lines. On the northern control line from the old Reading fire, that hand line's been opened up and snagged and prepped for that fire to come out of the Reading fire scar. We also have a contingency line, a dozer line, that cuts out of the campground just below that and goes down into Lost Creek that ties into our Badger Spur line, okay? And then the other line that I was talking about coming down to the south side of Badger connects into the park, and they've authorized mastication into that. So that's what we're working on today. They're pushing in there, and we'll start masticating into the park, along the edge of that park, and tie it back in to the Badger Spur Road on that southern line. Retardant is authorized in the park, yes. Yeah, and all of Highway 89 has been masticated in the park and cleaned up. So, and then the park has been, I'll tell you from my personal story, and I'm the local fire management officer here on the Hat Creek. Been working really close with the park, with the fire management officer in the park also. And I just say that the park's been pretty open, and when we have a strategy and a tactic that we think is going to work, the park is listening, and it's been a pretty open communication, and they're open to our ideas of what our strategy is that's going to work in the park. Yep.
Thank you, Chief Prather. Any additional questions before? Oh, there's one behind. I can't see.
Just real quick, there's a lot of debate about whether the fire has crossed 44 to the north. Is that true or not?
Chief Prather?
Okay, you said there's some debate over whether it's crossed 44 to the north. The fire has not crossed 44, Highway 44. I'm not sure exactly where you're talking about, but up on Highway 89 in the park, we have had quite a few spots that they've caught and they brought back in.
No, I'm talking about east of, near the Lassen-Shasta County line on 44 to Susanville. The map shows it closed. I've heard it's been open, closed, and I just talked to somebody on the way in that said it has crossed the Highway 44 at the Shasta Lassen County line.
It has not crossed Highway 44.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chief Prather. All right, any more questions out there? one over to our left. He'll be over with the microphone in just a second.
A friend of mine who works for, Castle Fire Department, volunteer fire department, and he was telling me, like, in the parks, that if a fire starts in a park, that they don't even try and put it out. I don't know if he knows what he's talking about or what.
All right, we'd like to bring Jen back up for that question.
Good question. Coming from Whiskey Town, I didn't like wildland fire use either, trust me, because I lived in Old Shasta, but no, this is not a fire use. So some parks let fires, some forests, some Bureau of Land Management, and under the right conditions out in the middle of nowhere, they can allow fires to skunk around between rocks and a river, and you can allow them to do fire use for resource benefit. It's a great way to get acres burned. A lot of the problems that we got here today, one of the problems is forest management, and it's one of the tools that we can use for that. But this fire has nothing to do with that, and Lassen Volcanic, I don't see them doing that probably ever again, who knows? But and that's where you guys need to comment when parks, forests, BLM, your agencies, when they do fire management plans and they do public scoping, that's where we listen to you and your feedback, and that gets put into the plan. So it's important to participate.
Thank you, Jen. Question?
So can you tell us where it is in the park? I know a lot of us are familiar with the landmarks in there. Where is it?
We'll bring Chief Prather back up to give you that information.
I'll go to the map here. Okay, some of you are familiar with the old Reading Fire Scar. So Summit Lake Campground, just to the north of Summit Lake Campground, you hit the Reading Fire Scar off Highway 89. So the fire is held up currently in that Reading Fire Scar in the park. So coming back down around, and it's in the park just to the south of the Caribou Wilderness also. Everything south of this red line? So not everything. No, I mean you burn. Yeah, it's on fire. Yeah. So you see the red line on the map here. When you see that, that's the active fire edge. So everything you see to the west of that fire edge, where you don't see the red on the map, that there's no fire there yet in the park. So I'd say for the most part, you probably have about 70% of the park, maybe 60% now, that has been burned. What's that?
Spad?
Yes, Drake Spad had fire in it.
I'm going to cry.
I will say that some of those areas in the park, it's varying degree of fire damage, and some of it has done some actually good. You know, it looks good, so it's on the ground. But I will say that there are large portions of it that did get up into the ground.
Thank you, Chief Prather. All right, additional questions out there? Sorry, I can't see with the lights. I think it's right behind there.
Okay, where is the Department of Fish and Wildlife?
Chief Truax, do you want to comment on that? There's no rep here. I don't believe they have. Yeah, we're in contact with them.
Being that any kind of information has to be done online because they don't have any more printouts of any regulations or anything. So they should be here with information, things like that.
Okay, and afterwards, if you don't mind, or you could let us know now, what particular information are you looking for from them?
Oh, I'm sure everybody right now is asking about the hunting.
Okay. Well, that's something we do have our liaison here. We'll explore that more. And if some information does come out, it will be released through the Dixie fire incident. And after this, I'll go over some places that you can look for the information that's released. Okay, right here, right in front.
I have one more question. I'm sorry.
No.
I know the campgrounds are closed, but do you have any idea how many people stealth camp around here?
Robin, would you like to answer that question?
How do you deal with that?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I can answer it quickly. I do not know. But because there's a lot of dispersed camping, but we do have our law enforcement, we have our recreation who patrol the area, and we look for you to let us know when, like if you see a large dispersed camping or folks out there, you can call my office. You can call me directly. You can call the office and let us know. So we would ask you to be our eyes and ears on that. But we do have law enforcement, like I say, recreation patrol. We do close the campgrounds, as you see. The gate is swung closed. If you see vehicles in there, some of the camp hosts have moved up to Bridge. And we may have some folks that have been evacuated in other areas. We are not going to evict those people because they need a place to stay. So we know who's there. If we can accommodate some folks that are for the evictions in other parts of our county and neighboring counties, if we can give them a place, it's going to be in Bridge Campground. I went through there just a few days ago, last week, and it was maybe a quarter full. So we will accommodate. We're not meanies. We will try and accommodate folks that's been displaced. But on patrol, the community making contact with us, and some of our own law enforcement. That's how we realize, try to keep track of who's out in the forest. I hope that answers your question.
Well, pretty much. I have been an angel on the Pacific Crest Trail for years. And while I know there are no northbounders coming through, southbounders I'm not so sure of, because there are packages still being picked up at the post office. And that means they are stealth camping in this area somewhere because they can't get into the campgrounds. And I worry about their mentality, because I think they ought to be somewhere else. But two, I worry about their safety.
I would be too, but as a trail angel, we look to you to help us. Let us know if you see a surge of folks that are using the trail. Let us know, and we will look into that. We are in contact. I know it's put on the website, the Pacific Trail websites, the foundation, and we have it on our Forest Service websites of the locations that are closed or restricted within the trail, which is pretty much all of Central and Northern California. But it's a long trail, and if you're just talking about the PCT, if you see a surge of folks using it, just let us know, and we can help get the word out. And I know there's still probably some trail angels out there, and we can get that word out. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, another question.
I've heard mention of several different websites, and I'm trying to memorize them all, but is there one place, a piece of paper or something, where we can go and find these resources? Call us. We're here for you. How do we find you?
Okay, excellent question. So first, I see many of you have this blue piece of paper, this packet that you probably received when you got to the door. So that is the Dixie Fire update that's produced every morning at 7 a.m. and at 6 p.m. And we distribute this out through email. So if you haven't signed up, we'd be more than happy to sign you up or get your email before you leave today, and we'll make sure you receive it that way. We're also out in the community with the information boards, look similar to this, that have updated information every day on them. It's essentially the same sheet, new maps, and other information that comes out. And there is one here at Station 12 that's staffed about 10 a.m. in the morning. We get up and we're up into this area to get all the information posted for that day. And there's also other information boards in the community as well that you can go to. KSU radio station out of Susanville is also broadcasting our information. And then we also do have some social media sites that you can go to. One is the Lassen Modoc CAL FIRE Unit Facebook page. and our information's there. We're also sharing that information with the Shasta Cal Fire Facebook page as well, so Shasta Trinity Unit and Shasta County Fire Facebook page. Lassen National Forest and Plumas National Forest are also hosting information on their Facebook page. We do have a CAL FIRE Incident Management Team 1 YouTube that you can Google, and you'll see our videos as well. On those social media sites, we do have a 9 a.m. briefing by our operations section chief that's posted on the current briefing from the evening before and kind of what the plan is for the day going forward. So that's available as well. Also, every other evening, we're doing a virtual community meeting, which is broadcast out through that CAL FIRE Lassen MODOC Facebook page and Incident Management Team 1 YouTube page. And that's at 7 p.m., and we actually have one tonight. And that has various presenters, that also an operational update, evacuation update, and weather update. So we have that tonight, and then the next one will be Monday evening at 7 a.m. So those are kind of the areas you can go to. Also in this incident update, there's various links that will take you to the different counties or the evacuation maps, to the National Parks Service, U.S. Forest Service. We're all sharing our information. So if you do get this in the email, they're all hyperlinked. So you can go through this in the morning or evening and hit those links, and it will take you right to those pages.
Okay, so you're also going to include fish and game on there, right?
We'll explore getting some information from them.
Fishing again too, you know,
Fishing.
And when we can get to the lake.
Yes, absolutely. We'll work with our liaison to get some information for you and then include that as well.
Yes, I'm just a little confused about the September 6th closure that was announced here of the forest and the November 30th closure that was come down from Region 5.
Okay, the forest closures.
Yeah.
Robin, do you mind coming up for that? Hang on.
Sorry, ma'am, could you repeat that question?
So there was a November 6th closure recently given of the forest through the Labor Day weekend. But then previous to that, and you mentioned there was a November 30th closure by Region 5, you know, the Sierra region, of the whole forest until November 30th. So I'm just a little confused about the closures.
Okay. So the forest closures, like Emily Smith said, is that they're posted outside. There are 6 copies. I did see copies of the closures at the visitor center, the Hat Creek Visitor Center, and, Hat Creek, the Old Station Visitor Center, and it's also online. So my notes, I'm going by my notes, is that the Lassen National Forest, the expanded Dixie Fire closure order, the one that's for this local area, it was from the 12th to November. I have November 30th. And if it was a mistake, I will fix it. But
no, that was originally said, but then there was one that ended September 6th. It's been on the news.
So that was different. So that one that I was quoted for September 6th, did I have it right? Yeah, September 6th. That is a regional closure for the 9 forests. It was a much shorter closure. But for the Lassen National Forest, the expanded for the Dixie Fire, that was around Old Station, that is until November 30th. The other shorter one for the region, September 6th. That included the 9 forests, not just Lassen, 9 total forests.
I see, okay.
I hope I answered your question. If not, it is available online.
So the bottom line is, if it's closed until November 30th, there will be no hunting season. I just have people that want to know, not that I care.
The expanded part, the expanded for the Lassen National Forest, the expanded part did not include the whole forest. That did not include, it only included east of 89, south of 44, the expanded Dixie closure. Now the closure for the regional, I think I'm clearing it up now. This for the regional was the whole forest, 9 forest, and that was until September 6th.
September 6th.
Does that make sense? I hope so.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Robin. And then too, just to add on, in the incident update that we can email to you does have a section on the national forest closures and a hyperlink to the Lassen Forest to identify some additional information if that were to change. And I thought I saw a hand up over here. Okay.
Good afternoon. I have two questions. One, I know the Type 1 tankers dropped on Branch 13 the other day, and I was wondering if they can show us that on the map of where they actually dropped. And then second question, the dozer lines, the contingency lines out there in Branch 13 west of Prospect Peak, are those drivable by Type 3 engines, or are they just too, is it nasty country out there and only dozers can get out there?
Okay, great. We'd like to bring back up Chief Prather.
Yeah, so the large air tankers you saw flying the other day, that was in support of our burn operations going around Butte Lake. So they lay retardant out, a few hundred feet outside of the burn operation. That way, if we get any spotting, they have a good chance to go in there and catch it, and the retardant will slow it down. Does that make sense to you? So they did that operation in preparation for that burnout operation. And I'm sorry, what was the second question? Oh, the drivable
The second
roads?
question is the contingency lines, the dozer lines that are west of Prospect Peak there. Is there any way of Type 3 engines getting in there, or is it just too nasty of a country to get in there?
Yeah, they are drivable for most of the way for Type 3 engines, and then Type 6 engines, they're a little bit smaller. The four-wheel drive ones can get most of that country. There are a few of those lines that it's all just hand walk.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Prather. All right, any more questions out there? All right. With that, we would like to thank all the presenters this afternoon for coming up here, as well as all of you for attending. I was going to go over all the information of where you can find it, the sites, but I kind of already did. So if anyone needs assistance looking for those social media sites, or again wanting to have your email added, just come meet me up after this meeting, and we'll get you signed up. Also, too, on this incident update is our information phone number up on the top right-hand corner. So if you have any questions at all, please give us a call. It's 24 hours, and we can try and get you that answer. So thank you again for coming today, and have a great rest of the afternoon.